Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Swerve with me. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and I have a super couple that I'm going to be speaking to tonight. But this is a show where we have adult conversations for mature audiences only. We talk to people who are not afraid to show their scars and speak their truth so that others will be encouraged and others will be motivated to live their best life, to do things that are in order, that are in decency, and to be able to be an inspiration to all of those that they would come in contact with. So as you come in, tag somebody, let them know that we're on. Somebody who's not watching the Super Bowl, because everybody is not watching the Super Bowl tonight. But I have an amazing couple that I'm so excited to share with. I got to tell you, as you tag somebody and come in, I want to say that before I decided to do this show, the idea was that I would speak with multi-generational couples. That means people probably in their 50s, a couple maybe in their 40s or 30s or 20s, because I wanted to be able to put the generations together to hear about how they dated, how they courted, before they got married, what has changed, what has happened, what didn't happen. And I wanted to be able to have this wonderful dialogue with the generations. But when I spoke to this couple, I recognized suddenly that, you know what, they deserved a show of their own because so much to share. They're so rich in knowledge and in wisdom. And I wanted to make sure that they had the time that was needed in order to share their stories and to be able to be an encouragement to someone out there who is perhaps a lady in waiting or a man in search for a wife. I'm sure their stories will be able to encourage you and to help you wherever you are, whether you're the lady in waiting, whether you're the man seeking, whether you are the couple contemplating marriage, whether you are a married couple. I believe that this couple has something to say to each and every one of you. So come on in, tag somebody, and let them know that, yeah, the Super Bowl ain't the only thing on tonight, but we are definitely in for an amazing, amazing conversation tonight. Good night, Joba. It is so good to have you with us. So I'm just waiting for some more people to come on. I gotta say, last week, if you missed last week's show, we talked about sexual abuse, and particularly with children, and we gave a number of symptoms what you can watch for as a parent or a guardian or that extended village, things that you can look for to determine whether or not a child is being abused or not sexually. And then we took a look at young adults and we gave you a whole list of things. So if you didn't have a chance to watch that show, we even talked about sexual abuse with the elderly. And so it was a very in-depth show where we wanted to take the time to discuss matters that are prevalent in our society today, because that's why we do what we do. We want to be able to reach people where they are. We want to be able to take on the matters that are concerning people right now. Good night. Hey, lovely. Good to have you here tonight. So go ahead, tag somebody. Let them know that we're on. So tonight I'm talking to Mike and Coolie Wilson. This is a couple that's at the moment residing in Grand Bahama, but one hails from North Andros, the other from New Providence. You'll hear more about that a little later as we go along. But this is going to be a conversation that I believe is going to be so rich. And so I want you to help me welcome to Swerve with me tonight, Mike and Coolie Wilson. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Very good. It's so good to have you. Good night, Tiffany DeVoe. It's good to have you with us. Come on, tag somebody and let them know that we're on the air. We are going to be as transparent as it comes because our desire is to help someone who is in a relationship to improve that relationship or to give them some tips on how they may be able to overcome something difficult that they're going through. So good night again, everyone. Listen, I want to start with ladies first. Coolie, tell us about yourself. Who is Coolie Wilson?
Well, I hear from the island of Andros, North Andros, Master Point. I've lived there till the age of 18. Within that time, all I knew was home, church, school, and that was me. Grew up in a Christian home. My mom was an evangelist. Bless her soul. She's passed on. My dad has passed on, and came through the ranks of the youth leader, children's church leader, the Patient Bible School teacher, singing in the choir, the young adults, and the elderly choir, and we've been in church all my life, basically.
So you were very, very churchy. Very,
Yes,
very,
that's
very,
all we
very.
know.
Okay. So come on, Mike. Tell us about you. Give us a little bit about your background.
Well, hello everyone. Bless you. My name is Michael Wilson, and I'm a teacher. I'm one of
Okay.
those we live, eat, sleep, drink church. However, though, I'm one of those persons as we came up as young people. I was entrenched in the church work. And my father is Reverend Bishop Philemon Wilson. Reverend Lorna Wilson is my mother. She passed on. But I too, like Coolie, from I know myself, I was in the youth department. I too was a part of the choir, ran into the directing of choirs, and went into playing in music. So I'm one of those people again. I was church, everything was church. But when I found myself getting older and we had an opportunity to start to go out and meet people. That's where I realized only what we were built on is now what we find ourselves standing on. But I'm not.
Before you go on, just a minute, they're telling me that they're getting feedback. If you have some headphones or something that might help to put on some headphones, do you have any headphones nearby, or somebody could bring you a headphone?
But it will only be one because the computer.
That's fine. You just get a headphone. We're gonna do that because I'm getting that we're having some feedback, so that's fine.
When we get up here.
Yeah, that's fine. So, Mike, while she's gone, let's talk a little bit about at the time growing up in the church. You're the PK, you're the pastor's son. I'm sure there were a lot of girls after you. I am sure, just by nature of who you were, that made you attractive to some young girls.
Young man, I was really one of those young men. I think I was the person, we say I'm tall, dark, and handsome. So I was 3 out of 3. But for me, as I began to come into this thing where we're meeting young ladies and I'm moving through and who I might supposed to be, I found myself only because I know that if I ever gone out on, did something stupid on my daddy, he is going to move heaven and earth. He is going to put the oil on me. And then when he lays his hands on me, it's not going to be good. And so, yes, there were girls coming my way, but I believe because I was so afraid of my father when I was younger, but as I began to get older, I was so afraid of what God will do. I almost stayed on the right path. I never smoked. I've never drank. And so I am not one of those saints who said, I have done these unthinkable things and then Christ saved me. And then that's not my testimony. My testimony was I've been in ministry. All I know is ministry. We had the opportunities, but to God be the glory. He allowed me to stay sanctified in what I was moving. But yes, as a young man, we drove nice cars, and I thought I was saying something, I really thought I was the best thing in skin in the whole Church of God. And so I was really one of those individuals who I was just really just being a young man. And so no, again, because of what my fear of my father, I just said to myself, no, I'm gonna be this nice guy, move through, do what I need to do, be the best musician I could be. And so again, I don't have one of those stories where I started smoking dope and my father pulled me in and or they met me. He had to take me out of jail. No, it wasn't anything like that. But to God be the glory. That's my story. That's my story. But as we get into this talk again, yeah, I'm going to show you where I'm so thankful that he had never allowed me to get into some stuff because I've seen some stuff.
So, what about you, Coolie? You being in leadership, and I'm sure you were very attractive to guys as well because you, of course, well kept. You're in the church, and men like women in the church, because they believe that's where the good girls and stuff. So, what about you? Prior to meeting Mike, what was that like for you, in terms of a relationship or just being attractive or attracted to somebody else?
Growing up in the Church of God of Prophecy, it's like the parents try and pair you with other parents, try and pair their sons and daughters to say, okay, later down in life, you will marry this one and you guys will be together and all of that. But at probably until the age of 17, almost 18, it was like, that was a no-no because of my dad. Trust me, my mom put the fear of God in us for him. So just being in the house and, when you hear the car pull up in the yard, she said, oh, that's your daddy. So everybody's just running around trying to fix everything proper and make it comfortable for him and all of that. So it was to a point where, okay, there was no dating until around, like I said, 17. But it was a place where, okay, you've been in church all your life and you've been churching. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to marry someone from the church. That's back then. I had that in my mind. I don't want to marry someone from the church. Let me date and see what it is to find someone in the world. So I dated someone around, it was 17. I was still in school and that didn't work out because that was not what I was looking for. So even though straying away from the church, it was like, you know what? They say partying and all of that. And I went to the club and party, drink. And because, you're at that age where you want to experience, especially before you leave school. So you want to experience this. Everybody else is doing, your friends are doing it, and you're always in church. So that was a breakout point for me. That's a point where I just let loose, went to the club, drank, and dated someone out in the world, and came to the realization that no, that's not what I wanted. But I still don't want a church man or someone from the church.
Let's hold hands and pray right here. No.
You are a mess. Okay, so I want to move the story along. So Joba says, "My God, I remember that when my daddy came home, rushing around and get everything done." So you had this opportunity, as many young people do. But what is curious to me is, how were you able to go to the club with strict parents like that? Some sneaking or something was happening.
Yes. My mom was an evangelist. So she was off the island evangelizing. So that was the time that we took.
She evangelized too.
Back on the island, So we'll say, okay, we go into bed, wait till daddy go to bed or whatever the case may be. Put on our clothes and we out the back door, gone. So it was a sneaking. That's what it was.
Jesus. Let's pray. Let's pray.
So listen. So Well, now we're gonna switch gears now and go back to you, Mike, and talk about. There came a time, I'm sure, with your father being a pastor, a bishop in the Lord's church, that you guys would travel from island to island, probably doing conventions, revivals, whatever the case is. And on one of these occasions, the trip took you to North Andros. So tell us about that particular trip.
But again, it's so amazing how two different types of people in church finds themselves together. So to those people out there who are walking this road and you says that's not me, once you're doing it and you do it in real authentic love and connection, you will find whom God will join together. There's nobody could put it together. But as for me, as a young man, I had to have been about 17 too, and I'm now playing the drum in my father's choir. He takes this group of young people as we moved into to Andros, North Andros. And man, I get off the plane, get on the bus. They take us to this little loft in they call it the Bite. That's an area in North Andros. And as we got out, we found ourselves just hanging out, playing a little dominoes until time to go get something to eat. So I'm standing playing domino, watching the guys play dominoes, and while I'm in Andros, supposed to be on an assignment. I was on an assignment, but I'm in Andros on this assignment, and this young lady walks by. And the young lady, there's the young man who lives in the community. I said to the youngster, "Who's that girl coming up the street?" And he says her name is Coolie. And so she finally reaches where we were playing the dominoes as she passed. And I said, "Hi, Coolie." And this Coolie looks at me like, who this black boy trying to talk to? And so she just walks by, and that was it. That afternoon, now we are getting ready for our assignment. I'm at the place where we were going to minister, and my friend was talking to a young lady who was from Andros, but he said, "Boy, you look like you just out of place. She says, my cousin says, let me get my cousin to talk to you." Guess who people this cousin was? This was Coolie. And I was so amazed. And to me, the lights already went off. The bulb was right at the top of my head that says, now that's not a coincidence. And so as we talked, no, I didn't talk freshness. Again, unlike her, I was not out. I don't go and I don't do that. I ain't trying to get to know you sexually. I ain't trying to touch you. I really don't even. So for me, it was really just getting to know this beautiful girl that I saw walking up the street. And so,
Okay, so let me just, before you go on, I want to switch and go to her now. So this strange person, you walking minding your own business, either going home or wherever you go into the shop, and this person that you've never seen before calls your name, right? Let's pick the story from there to say your reaction and what you're thinking at that.
When that happened, I was like, what? Who's this person? How does he know my name? Well, I figured out after a while because I saw guys who were sitting there playing dominoes who would have known me. So I said, okay, they probably so, but I took no interest. I just continued walking. And like he said, that night we had, I sang in the choir in church. So that's how come we both went to the same function. Our choir was ministering at that time. So my cousin came and said, well, okay, I need you to meet someone. I have a friend, I met a friend, and he has a friend that I want you to meet. I'm like, what? You know what? Whatever. Let's go. Nothing serious. Wasn't even thinking about, let's go talk and we'll get it over with and that's it. Let's hang out. That's it. So when she called, when we went, and she said, "This is his friend Michael," I was like, "Wow, really? It's the same guy stalking me, eh?" So it was that sort of a reaction. But I wasn't rude because we're from Andros. The islanders usually, friendly. So I wasn't rude. I just, in the back of my mind, was like, okay, this guy must be stalking me. And we talk and we talk. I didn't even remember if I sang in the choir.
She didn't sing that night, people. She didn't sing that night.
You'd already blown her mind on.
Very much.
So listen. So you meet that night, and subsequently he returns to Nassau. Obviously, you must have exchanged numbers at that point, and you kept in contact. But so wait a minute. I have your mic closed because of the feedback. So what I want to say is, so once you have a talk this night, Coolie, you leave feeling kind of indifferent. Oh well, that was just to kill some time or whatever. But you exchange numbers and you go back. So Mike, what are you thinking after this conversation and you returning to?
Man, there is something when a man meets something, he knows when he met something. Now, I said a lot of stuff, but it was really deep to those people who understood or who understands relationship. When you meet in the Bible, they called it Boaz. When you meet your man, and in my case, when I met my wife, you have to know who you met. And the internal told me, wow, not only she is pleasant to the eye, but I thought she was funny. I thought she held a good conversation. So for me, I had already determined in myself, that's what I want. Do you understand, Miranda?
So you're saying your 18-year-old self told you that's going to be my wife from that night?
Hear me and hear me well. If I could speak to somebody, when you meet yours, you're going to know that that's yours. And I'm saying at the age of 18, that happened. When I met Coolie, man, listen to me. Y'all could see that's like cream, and I'm the coffee. I'm telling you, I knew that was me. As a matter of fact, it was so, I introduced her that night to my parents. Could you believe that? I said to my mother, now my mother always told me, you introduced me to a lot of girls. And I was just doing the honorable thing to say, when you seeing somebody, you say, Mommy, I want you to meet so-and-so. It's my friend. But that night, I introduced her to both my mother and my father. My mother was the one who was a little, I ain't sure, you tell me that some time ago, but I ain't sure. But if you say so, Mike, hi, baby. But I knew within myself that that's who I wanted. And the story could not change in my mind that was who I wanted.
So you get back into Nassau, and of course you began to call each other because there was no email and texting and chatting back then. So you're making these calls. You're 18. Both of you are obviously out of high school at the time. So what are you doing in Nassau, and what is she doing?
Well, listen to this, Miranda. I was getting ready to go to college the following month. And so all I had was a couple weeks of talking to her on the phone, but I was going to college. Now, watch this. I took a photograph of her to Cleveland, Tennessee, and put that thing in a place where I could see her every day. And we spoke across the waters. Somebody says long distance relationships don't last. I'm here to tell you that's not true. If you have a relationship and you are true to it, it will last. And so I'm off to school, Lee College, Cleveland, Tennessee, with a bunch of white people that helped me because there wasn't nobody like her. And so I just was focused not only just on talking to her, but I was focused on school. And so I found myself just, oh, I can't wait to get back home. And so she is in Andros. I'm getting ready to leave Nassau to go to school. We stay there for just over a year. And so now that I'm coming back home, it's when we really start to hook up and say, let's make this thing real serious, man. I'm not talking about talking on the phone and falling asleep on the phone, after an hour. I'm saying now, I want to be able to pick you up, take you out for a dinner. Um, I wanted to take it to the next level. And so 1 year after college, now that I'm 19, it's so amazing. When I come back to the Bahamas, I go straight into the police college. So now I'm a recruit constable, but I'm still interested in Coolie. We're still talking. And she wasn't telling me she loved me every day. But, for me, I knew that was mine. And so I started this thing in college, and I can remember the days in police college. Right in my locker, hey, I still with Coolie. And so that's what we there for the last 6 months. I passed out in December of 1990, and that's when my world changed. When I was able to tell Coolie, listen, get on a plane, man. I'm sending you a ticket to Nassau to meet.
Okay,
To
let me
meet
get
my
Coolie in now. Let me get Coolie in. Coolie. After this long distance, it's him going to the college shortly after you met. When did things begin to turn for you and you started to connect? Hey, you know what? This seems like somebody I could be with and take seriously.
I would say not until he graduated from the police college. Because while we were overseas in Lee College, it was like, okay, we'll talk and talk off and on. But okay, it's just my friend I'm talking to. Never put a name on it to say that's my boyfriend or we are seriously dating. None of that. That didn't happen until after December. I think December when he graduated, which would have been December 1990.
So you were at that point where you were finally like, okay. So I'm sure all along he was telling you what his intention was because if he's saying he knew exactly what he wanted when he saw it and he was determined that he was going to keep this connection going, you were, what was it that sealed the deal for you to say, all right, he's asking me, formally or however it went, to really be a part of his life? What was it about him or about what he said that sealed the deal?
He was persistent. He didn't stop. He continued calling. He continued checking up. When he hangs up the phone, before he hangs up, he'd say, I love you. But I never said I love you back. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, he probably really serious. And then after hearing it over time, time go by and you hear this, okay, you know what? He's checking up on me, saying, okay, just calling to check up on you. I'm praying for you. I'm like, really? So it was really I start to feel as if though he was genuine about what he was saying and how he said he felt about me. And it wasn't just some random overseas relationship where, okay, they could say whatever, but you don't hear that. You don't hear it in their voice or you can't feel it. So it was after a period of time, I felt it. I felt that he was really, really serious about me.
So you graduate from police college and now you're a working man, Mike. all right, and you working, so you making some dollars, and you decide, listen, I need to see her now. I need to really see her to really kind of solidify this long distance relationship, quote unquote, that we've been having for these past almost 2 years. I guess it would have been by then. And you decide that you're going to send for her now. I want to talk about this part because both of you being the church people in your parents' home, how that looking like? You trying to send for this girl from Andros to come to Nassau? How did you all manage to do that?
Now, that question, oh boy, Miranda, this is why it's important as parents to train your children in the way that they should go. So here's how this goes. First of all, Coolie made mention that she was dating somebody before me that was in the world. But when she met me, she decided to say, okay, I'm going to see you. But I knew the person who was in the world had a little bit more money than me. So I had to step my game up. And so I said to myself, Mike, boy, listen to me. You have to show this woman you serious and you are a baller, just like who she was dealing with. So I said to her, do me a favor. I sent a plane. No, I sent no plane, y'all. This is general aviation. You go in the little 5-seater. So it wasn't no big plane. But I just paid for the ticket, which happened to be $80 for the ticket because Andrew's right 15 minutes right across the road. So I said, hey, go to the airport, no expense. Don't spend any money. Get on a plane. I'm sending a plane for you. I'm going to meet you to the airport. My father says as a police, he don't check for me when I go out in the day. So as far as he was concerned, Mike just was doing his regular day. But I was making plans, y'all. And Coolie lands in Nassau. This is the pastor's child. I go and get a room at Albany. Because I was Bishop Phil's son, oh yeah, I know your father. Yeah, I ain't getting a room in my name. It ain't my name. This Bishop's people, and we need a room. We need a suite. And she comes in and we go down there. And I was living the best life. Picked her up from the place in a borrowed BMW. Oh Jesus! We took her to the place on Cable Beach. We had something to eat. Dropped her to the room, and just like the guy that I told you I was, I showed it to her because when you act like you trying to get it, is when they are forced that I ain't gonna give it. So I acted like I was used to this stuff. So I said, this suite is for you. Have a wonderful night. I'm going to check on you tomorrow morning. And I left her in a beautiful suite. So I didn't get any that night. And so for me, I thought that I was the best thing in skin and showing her, listen, I am a gentleman. I'm not trying to do that. And so that really went on for probably about over 2 years, that all I was doing was showing her that I would like to show you I'm going to treat you with the utmost respect, that I'm not going to try and bother you to say, let me get some. I'm not going to try and tell you, you pay for the meal. I'm not going to try and fake like, I'm not interested. Let's talk for hours. Let's go places and show you what Nassau is all about. I thought listen, I was doing it. And I believe after 2 years, I got to tell you this, 2 years, Coolie turned one day to me and her breast hit my hand. And I felt her breast for the first time on my hand. And I apologized because I thought I was being sexual. And so I apologized. That's how seriously I wanted to show her I was not here to try and take something from you. And she acted like that was usual, That took took me away. But for the most part, I recognize then, oh man, this is more woman than I ever have. And so, as this pastor's child, uh, I did something that I wasn't supposed to do, that my parents tell us. Don't put yourselves in situations that you know you can't handle. And so it was this particular time I go on and get the suite again, y'all. Now they know me by name because I always get in the suite. And I did the thing.
Wait, before you go there, I want Coolie to talk about this the first time you're coming into Nassau and this welcome and this suite. Were you impressed or were you like okay or let's I want you to talk about that before you go to the next level.
Miranda, why are you putting me on the spot? Now he's gonna know exactly what. Okay, I pretended that I was impressed.
That's why we here. So let's hear it. Bring it
No,
on.
honestly, at first it was like, okay, that sort of lifestyle was already accustomed to. So
See,
it
I
was,
didn't know that. I didn't know that, Miranda.
so it was like, okay, I see he's trying.
Jesus.
I see he's trying. I'm not asking for anything in return. He must be saying for real. So that's what I thought. I'm like, okay, I could get used to this Christian living with giving nothing in return, but still living, balling, so to speak. So it was around that time, within those 2 years, he really showed me, honestly, he really showed me that I really care about Coolie. Not what you could give to me, not what I can receive from you, but I want to show you that I really care about you, the individual, without touching, asking for anything, and none of that. And that's what really, really won me over with him.
How important is that, Cooley? I want to stay there for a little while. How important is that for young women today, or women who are dating in that process to be able to look for someone who is not trying to get something from you as much as show you who they are and how they really feel about you? How important is that? I'm sorry.
That is the it factor right there. Once you can, a man can show a woman, or a young man can show a young woman that I'm not interested in getting from you because I'm taking you out for dinner. We have to go shack up somewhere. Because I'm buying you jewelry. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Not because I bring you flowers that I want to get with you, so to speak. And I'm sure that they're young Christian. Some may not even be Christian, but they have morals. They have values about themselves. And they would appreciate that more than ever. Even to say, I mean, I may be old school now and all in this relationship. You didn't even have to get me flowers. And you show me that you really care. That means the world. I don't have to get the jewelry. And you show me that you really care. And it's not something that you're looking. We can be neutral and have a conversation and just sit and chill. And you don't have to have sex. Or we don't have to have sex. We can just enjoy each other company. That's the it factor right there.
Miranda, before she goes, I want to bring a next side to this. We're in a new dispensation where young people, and I use the word young people who are dating or even older folk who are dating find themselves playing the game of love, not really looking for love. And so when you talk the reality of, talk to that person out there who's dating, you got to first find out. They may not have been on the same road we were on. They may just need a little love. They may not need a relationship. Some people who need a relationship will not play games. But too many of our now times find themselves playing the game of love. And the game is what hurts them in the end.
That's really good, and you both brought out some really important points in that regard. I don't want to stay in that vein because I really want to share your story. I just think it's so amazing. So you get to this point now where obviously you're falling in love or in love. You're dating for these 2 years consistently. You're seeing him. He's seeing you as often as possible, and no doubt there are emotions, there are feelings. I'm sure you want to reach out and touch, and you want to express yourself in a physical way that human beings do. But of course, you recognize you're Christians. You don't want to compromise, your belief system and all that kind of stuff. But you still, Mike, like you said, did something that your parents always said not to do, which was to get yourself in a compromising position, which could be different for various people. So tell me, what was that compromising position that you, as you called it, that you got yourself into, and subsequently what happened?
Here's what that compromising position was. There was not, she would come to Nassau, and I would keep her around my family so I wouldn't do anything. She would be in the house. My father always tells me, no decent, respectable person stays out after 8. So that means if she comes in the house, we are always in the presence of all adults and or my parents. And so we never did anything. But here's the thing. I did something after doing what you said. Man, I saw this beautiful woman. Remember now, I've already touched her breast. So for me, who have never had a woman in my life, as far as I was concerned, I was always thinking of this. And me thinking of this, I said, you know something? When I get this sweet again, bro, you got to use your sweet. Because I don't know what it meant to have a woman, I have not been around. So this was the first time that I would have laid with a woman. And my first time, I tell y'all, we've been shacking up for 1 year, 2 years. And then the first time I been with this woman, within the first time I get my girlfriend pregnant, the pastor's child was in South Ocean with the door open. And when I didn't know what you do. All I know is you stay there. And I did that thing. And she ended up that first time getting pregnant, because it wasn't no 2 and 3 times afterwards. I thought God was going to come down and breathe fire on me because I sinned and fall short of his glory. And I know if my daddy ever heard that that's what I was doing, I know too, he would have told me you need to find your own house. Subsequently, she is now pregnant. I keep that from my parents because I don't want to be ashamed that I let my father down. And I end up making my father believe that because I was this working police, I'm growing up now. Daddy, I need my own space. That's not the truth. So I start to be deceptive in how I'm operating. And so in Hub now being pregnant, I can't leave this young lady by herself. That devil is a liar. So I'm going to stick with her. You stay here. I'm going to go every time you go to the clinic. I'm going to go with you. Every time you need something, I'm going to be there to rub your stomach. And so I really was living the life of a shocked up so-called Christian whose parents are the pastors.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So you're pregnant and you decide you're going to move in to get a coolie, so you end up staying in Nassau. At some point, you end up moving. Just a minute.
Actually, we were back. I was back and forth. The first time, at that time when I wasn't showing, I was home in Andros. So, like I say, my dad was not a Christian, but my mom was an evangelist, and she was like something big in the Church of God of Prophecy in Master Point. So that was shame. But around that time, all of my friends had gotten pregnant at the age probably like after leaving school and all of that. So at that time, I was like about 24. So it was like, you know, not that bad, but it brought shame. So I'm in the house and, hiding it from my mom and my dad. Well, definitely him. Like, okay. And then she said, you know what? I need to talk to you. Something doesn't feel right with me. What's happening with you? And I'm like, oh, because we had that relationship. Like we would talk and, they always thought that I was her favorite. So she knew me. She said, something isn't right. You have to let me know what's going on. And I came out and I remember that day crying, crying, crying. And she said, you know what? She said, it's going to be okay. That took me because I'm like, oh, wow. With my sisters, she was like really, really upset. So I'm like thinking, okay, you waited until you were 24. You weren't 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You waited until you were 24. So that's probably sort of a, good reason for her to say, just calm down. Don't worry about it too much. We're going to tell your dad. I'm like, you have to tell him because I don't want to be around when, and she told my dad and he did not speak to me. I was in the house like for almost going on 2 months and my dad never, he would pass me straight and don't say anything to me. And I felt, Miranda, I felt as if though I brought shame. Even like I said, my sisters and those had kids prior to marriage. I just felt like, okay. And then I started to say, you think they had me for the golden child? And I felt like, oh wow, I disappoint my parents and brought shame on my mom and the church. And even, because I had the church folks, the elderly folks in the church, they looked up to me to say, okay, you're gonna run the Sunday school, you're gonna do the choir, they depended on me. So I was really, really active in church. And I am like, oh wow, I really hurt them. But such is life, life have to go on. I told them that, I wouldn't be able to do anything in church anymore. And I'm going to just sit back. And Miranda, let me tell you something. I was in church at the time and not saved. I was doing ministry and not saved. Because even though, okay, Michael will not touch me or whatever the case may be, I was at a point where I'm like, okay, I want to be with this man. Even though he knew and he did not notice because I didn't come up, because I felt if I were the one to come on to him, that would be like, oh, gee, you're really hot and all of that. So I tried to refrain myself, but in my mind, that's what I was thinking. I want him. But going to church after coming from Nassau, going to church and functioning and knowing good within myself that I'm not saved. I'm not fully saved. I'm not delivered from some stuff.
And that's not unlike many people functioning in ministry today. You know, your story is really not unique. There are so many people doing the work of the church, but not really a part of the church, the body of Christ, but they're doing the work of the church. And so you get pregnant, you're wrestling with this guilt feeling of being ashamed, you know, because you let your parents down. Mike, you wrestling with um what how I can tell my break this news to my parents or whatever. And you two are talking, but somehow you decide that I'm gonna bring her in from Andros, and we're gonna live together, and I'm gonna take responsibility. I'm going to step up as a man. Now let me ask you this. Why wasn't your first instinct, as many others have been, after your girlfriend is pregnant, to marry right away? Why wasn't that your first, you know, because we hear about the shotgun weddings, you know, people just get married because the woman got pregnant. Why didn't you take that road, Mike?
Well, I didn't take that road simply because she was already she was already somebody that I'm now going to be sharing a life with. And I wanted it to be true and authentic, that I'm not marrying you because you were pregnant. And so let's put this in perspective. We dated 5 years before I even proposed to her. We didn't have sex for 2 years after I met her the first time,
After you proposed.
after I proposed to her. And so if you are doing your math, the issue is I wanted her to know that I'm marrying you because I love you, even though we had a child together. But I do want to say this, like Coolie, when I did tell my father Coolie was pregnant and I'm bearing a child, fathering a child, my father too thought he was disappointed because he put a lot of trust and a lot of hope in me. Like Cooley's thing, persons who in the church, Mike, when I go to church, you go to church. You up in the praise team, you are doing these stuff in ministry with me. And so if I'm the pastor, now the pastor's son having a child, I too thought I brought shame to my father, and he was very disappointed. Now, unlike Cooley's father, uh, it's not that he didn't stop talking to me, but here's what I found as we moved from week to week, month to month. I was still in church. Now that I'm one of the good drummers in the gospel arena, I was to a gospel concert, John P. Key, at Joe Farrington Road. And I was driving this red Corvette, had, gone out to the concert, and I parked my car and somebody parked behind me. And the people did not move their car before 12 o'clock. Miranda, when I got home to my father's house, my father said, wherever you were at 12 o'clock, you go back there because that's where you can spend your night. This is my house, and you ain't gonna do that. Now, he already mad at me, so I believe he was spanking me because he said, you out doing foolishness. So that was the day when I decided, something, I can come back in the morning and I can get my stuff out of my house. So me and my father are now talking. I'm taking the stuff out the front door. My mommy is taking the stuff out my car and putting it in the back door. So I'm thinking she don't want me to go, but my daddy saying, no, the boy making sure, and he coming home 12 in the night. He's a man. You got your, come out of my house. That's when I took the opportunity. I was not living with Coolie. Having my child, I was not living with her. But I was paying the rent for the place she was living in Freeport and Nassau. I was paying the bill. And that's when I decided, when my father told me, listen, you think you're a man? I'm going to have to show you what a man is. And that's when I decided, man, I paying for this rent. I might as well go live with her. And we moved in together. Had this little boy. And we decided after a while, we're going to get married. And then we did that. How old was Malik or Michael?
9 months, I think. Probably, no, 11 months or so.
He was a little boy, little boy. You know, he was the cutest page boy you could ever see. And so we decided to get married. He was there with us. Our family came in. They accepted me. And we moved. Now we are married. And I believe I'm starting a new life. Here is where a friend of mine by the name of Charles Gibson came to me and says, listen, man, Bishop Neil Ellis is putting a band together and he's looking for some good musicians. Would you think you'd be willing to do it? I went to my father because I'm still directing the choir. And I said, Daddy, Bishop Neil Ellis sent me a contract asking me if I can come and be a part of the ministry. And my father said, you have your own house. I am not going to give you my blessings, but I want you to know you have to make your own decisions in life. And he allowed me to go and be with Bishop Ellis. And for me, that's when life started changing spiritually for me, because I had a different understanding coming into ministry, what we were just coming as young people. And so that's where we were. That's where we were. That's how it got started.
Let me just get into, let me read a comment. Elder Inslee said, that is why your marriage is so strong, because you did it the right way. That's the way God wants us to do it. May God bless and keep you all together so long as you both shall live. So you wait. So between the dating and the pregnancy and having little Mike, that was almost about 7 years that had passed by then of you two being together. But so in this time though, what changed between, because you had this long distance relationship for the longest time, then you finally moved to Nassau, and I believe that's where in the same city face to face you're actually spending time really getting to know each other. What are some of the things, and this is for both of you, what are some of the things that you learned about Mike Coolie that you didn't know prior to that time of, the long distance dating? And what are some of the things, Mike, did you learn about Coolie? And both of you can answer that.
Well, around that time, I felt as if though, like I said, he cared. And it's like, okay, I'm like, he didn't have any sisters. So he was always overprotective of me. And we would just go out. We enjoyed the same stuff. We enjoy music. We enjoy sightseeing, um, eating. So we did a lot of stuff together that really brought us closer at that time.
Well, I'd say for me, having a long distance relationship, you get to hear the mind of somebody. But whenever you get together with somebody, you get to know the actual person, because you smell that person, you hear their sense of humor, you see their facial reactions. Every day you get up and you say, I'm coming to pick you up. We're going down over PI just to go driving and look in the hotel. I'm actually seeing, boy, this is a fine young lady. You see? And so for me, that's how my relationship was moving from mental which was talking on the phone, to physical seeing every day. But we moved further when, oh man, when we fellowshipped. I'm gonna stay saved. When we fellowshipped, I seen the thunder roll and the lightning flash, sin dash before my soul. But at the end of the day, that one thing for me took me to another place in my relationship with her. That I said these words: once she gave herself to me, there is nothing that I wouldn't do for her. That's what I said. So I almost went to marriage mode even before her, to the place where I showed her that I was interested. But I want to take it a little further because it wasn't always as pretty in our going out time, because I'm still a young man. Women are still after me, but I have to be able to draw the line and say, where do we cut? Where does the boundary lay? And so there are times when, for me, I had to literally say to Coolie, no man, that's somebody in the church, they just in the choir. Ain't no thing with that. And so there were times she cut me off. And cutting me off meaning she was upset with me, and you ain't getting, don't think about that. That was the first time I understood we were starting to have issues between us as young people. But I stayed focused with this one thing, that I loved this young lady. And for me, we overcame those little issues. Overcame those little issues until we now started to move deeper in our relationship, where now her sister sends her daughter to Nassau to go to school. And for the first time, I have a responsibility of taking care of her sister, her niece. I'm now over the family. And so I find myself acting like a father over my house. And so I start to really put my big pants on and grow up. I started seeing changes in my life where she started to love me a little more and respect me for helping her family. And so her mother really stopped calling me Michael. She started calling me her son. And when she knew how much I loved her daughter, and then was a blessing to her grandchild, I was placed on the top of the list in her family. So now they don't just call me Michael. That's mom. That's her son now. And so we really started moving in a good place. It got to this place now where, as a police officer, this little boy who kept us joined together was the thing that we had as second most serious thing in our relationship when cancer knocked on the door.
Can I talk about that?
You get this, so you're having a great life together so far. You're raising your niece along with your son. That's what it sounds like. At the same time, and you're becoming pretty much adults, in terms of raising a family together and all the care and concerns that comes with that. And then let's sashay into, you get this news that your son is diagnosed with this cancer. How old was he? Um, how did you react, respond? How did you process this information that you had just gotten?
Well, I'm going to try and fast track it a bit because I see the time is going. It was November 2001. He was 5 at the time. And all of a sudden, when we picked him up from school, I saw a bruise on him. Didn't take any notice. Said, okay, it probably will go away. A couple of days later, he was doing his homework And I took the pencil and I just tap him. And where I tap him, Miranda, the bruise was like blood. Like, I'm like, but I didn't even hit him that hard. Something ain't right. So going on, he went and he used the bathroom. And I saw blood in his stool. And Miranda, I'm like, oh, gee, okay. Still not knowing, you know what? Let's take him to the doctor. We took him to the clinic. It was I think the clinic there on Collins Avenue on top of the hill. It was a private clinic. We took him there and the doctor said, well, okay, he examined him. He's like, I think you need to take him to the hospital right away. So I'm like, why? And they weren't saying anything. They said, Dr. Sinqui will be there at the pediatric ward to receive him. Take him there now. And I'm still, all sorts of stuff going in my mind. And she said, okay, Miss, we went there. She met both Michael and myself with Lil Mike. And she said, I need to examine him and we need to take some tests. We stood there. We stayed there we went there like about 5 p.m. that afternoon, up to 9 p.m. that night. They were still running tests. So I'm like, okay, could we take him home? So she said, no, I just need y'all to stay here for a bit. And I think she probably knew from the signs of what we said. And then when I know the doctor called her and what the doctor said. And she came, she said, I need to speak with both you and Mr. Wilson. We went into that room and I can remember it so clearly. She said to us, Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Wilson, your son have AML, leukemia. Didn't know what the AML was. When I hear leukemia, I know it was some sort of disease. She said that's a rare form of cancer. When she said that, I stopped breathing. I literally stopped breathing because all sorts of stuff was going in my mind. I just break down and I just start crying because I am like my 5-year-old. How? What happened? Why? And I had all sorts of questions in my mind. And she said, we would advise you guys to take him away. She said, do you have insurance? At the time, I didn't have insurance where I was working, but Michael had insurance through the police force. So she said, I need you guys to get on the flight as soon as possible. We're going to write this letter and we're going to send you to Jackson Memorial. We traveled first. No, let me back. She said that he had to take some blood because his platelets were low. His blood level was low. So they had to give him the blood before he went on the plane. That happened. And the next day we flew to Miami, went into Jackson. As soon as he got there, they did the test. They ran all the tests again. And they said, they confirmed it, that he has AML. And it's a rare, this leukemia is only found in adults at the time when they did the study. And that's back in 2001. And we were like, I just couldn't come to grip to say, why my son? What happened? What did we do wrong? Why is God punishing? I asked God why. I know we shouldn't have at the time, but that was really, really stressful. We went on. He took the chemo. Michael stayed. We stayed. His boss at the time, Mr. Greenslade, gave him that opportunity to stay with us. He said, go ahead and make sure your family is sorted. We went there November 2001. And Michael stayed for 2 months. He stayed for November, December. In January, we came back. We moved to Freeport. Around that same time, October, November, we were in the process of moving to Freeport. We moved into Freeport around that time, January 2002. We were back and forth because he had to go back to take his treatment and he had to go attend the doctor. So there was a point in time when we went back and Michael could not travel with us. And I was there with him. And the first time when we went together, Michael would take the night shift and I would take the day shift. So we'll be back and forth. We can go, shifting. And don't get me wrong, I had an awesome support group. We had friends like Olive Patton and Kendall Patton and the rest of my family. They would come over and help us out and give us time to be away. But when I went back in, I think it was February, because he had to go and take a next set of chemo. It was so much heavy on me, because as far as I'm concerned now, I'm here all alone with him. There's nobody to help. Michael isn't here, and that's the help. That's the support. I don't want nobody else support me. Not right at this time. I want Michael to be here, because this us. We need to be here. And Miranda, I couldn't understand. I just couldn't get it. I just felt as if though I was all alone. And I'm calling and I'm saying, oh, you need to come. He's saying, oh, but I can't come because I need to stay to work. Only one person is working now and I need to work, so I can't come. And I'm like, oh, ask your boss. Your child's sick. You need to be here. Why aren't you here? How come I'm here by myself? This is heavy. This is too much for me. I can't take it. And it became a strain. It became a strain at the time. And it was really, really a burden on me. And to the point where one day I was taking him, he were out of the hospital at the time. We went into the home, the Cancer Society home that they provided for us. And I said, he saw it on me. And he said, I know you're tired. And Miranda, I felt so bad, because I'm like, right now, I shouldn't be focusing on Michael and him being here. I need to focus on my child to make sure he's sorted. So my direction automatically changed. I wasn't even checking. Okay, Michael, that's fine. If you come, you come. You don't come, all the same. I really don't care. I just need to focus on my child and make sure he get better and make sure he get to the point where I could take him back home and he can have a normal life again. We came back home. Michael came over in April, I think, March, April, around that time. He spent a month with us, and then we came back to Freeport. We went back to Freeport. Within that time, he was okay. April, May, June. Here comes the cancer again. He was in remission in April. May, June. Here comes the cancer again, and it's full force. At the time, the doctor's saying, okay, we can give him a next set of chemo, but his body is weak because he can't take it. He's still a child. And like we say, that type of cancer was only found in adults. So they were trying to treat it with the same treatment that they were treating adults with. And it really got to a point where we had to come together and say, he said, Coolie, what are we going to do? How you feel? Michael, I see how my child react. I don't want to put my child through this again. I can't. I don't think that we should do it.
So I want to take over. Because now the doctor says to a young couple that I got to tell you the reality. The reality is I see the cancer cells eating up his good cells within 3 months. And after 3 weeks, I don't think he's going to make it. So I make a decision that if this the little general, he's going to go out big time. So I rented a limousine and I told the company, I want the car to be here every day for him. And so I want to say, when you go through challenges, you don't know what you're going through, why you're going through it. But if God permits you to go through it, I submit to you, go through it. And I happened to that day, we're going to the food store this day after the doctor spoke to us. And I meet my son talking to this little old lady. And when I said, hi, good afternoon, and she sounded like a baby, I said, oh, you're from the Bahamas. She said, yes, is this your son? I said, yes, it is. Oh, this is a wonderful little boy. Then her husband walked in. She says, you got to come meet little Mike, man. And she meets little Mike and they two knock it off. And I said, well, where y'all going? We're going to the food store. But I said, why don't you ride with us? They're senior citizens. That's why I did it. Not knowing the person who I was talking to, his name was Haywood Cooper. Haywood Cooper is a millionaire in Grand Bahama. It so happens that Haywood Cooper owns the building that the police force is renting for its headquarters. So Mr. Greenslade, after we got back, I said to him, you got to taste my wife's curry chicken. And he says, I'm for that. And Coolie cooks up the curry chicken and we're having dinner. Mr. Greenslade calls and says, hey, Mike, I'm checking on little Mike. How is he doing? Well, he took his chemo today and I think he's doing very well. But you wouldn't believe who I met today. These people are from Freeport. And I said, his name is Haywood Cooper. He says, Haywood Cooper, put him on the phone for me. They talk for a little while. Haywood has a soft voice. He puts Mr. Greenslade back on the phone and says, Mike, the person you have in your presence, be on your best behavior. The building we are in, he owns it. I said, no, Chief. He says, yes, be on your best behavior. And that was the first time I met this man and his wife. Didn't know who they were, but because I was doing it out of sincerity, when I got back to Grand Bahama, I told the driver to take me to the castle. I'm thinking people name their houses the castle. Not knowing, I drove up this winding road and see a blessed castle on the hill. And the little old lady looks over the balcony and says, hey, Mike, come up to the second floor. I get to the second floor and see on the third floor, there's at least about 17 more rooms. And I said, what's on the third floor? She says to me, I've never been there. But why am I saying this? We moved to this thing where we are having a challenge or a tragedy in our life. But God was using this little boy to make a pathway for me to where I was going. And so the reality is, this young lady, Olive Patton, man, listen, I am forever in her debt. I am forever in her debt. Coolie was back in Freeport one day, and Michael started to get a little tired, and we took him to the doctor. The doctor says he needs to take more blood, take his platelets up. And she got on a plane like she would have normally gotten on a plane. She took my son. They went over into Nassau and to go to the hospital. And so for me, I was doing something in the yard and I got a call from Mr. Greenslade and he says, listen, I need you to go into Nassau. And when I was picked up by Kendall, he took me to, I said, well, why are you going here? And he opened the door for me and I saw my little boy on a table, that silver table for years that I've been as a police, doing my job, reaching out to other families. I saw my son and I think it prepared me for that day. It was not hard. I walked away with my young wife and I'm starting to now trying to put the pieces together. I am saved. I am married. I try to do things the right way. I know that I honored my father and my mother while I was young. And I asked myself this question, God, how come my three brothers, can have children unsaved and I'm the one saved and that's the one you take? And I started to find out that God was dealing with us as husband and as wife, as a younger couple. And so we moved into this next place in our life where
Just say
the
this.
reality.
Let me just get into this. I don't want to rob you all. We're nearing the end. We usually end at 9:30, and I don't want to rob people of an opportunity to really hear this story and all the lessons learned. So I'm going to invite you to come back again. Come back again. Maybe next week if you're available, but I'll get back to you because I know that the story is so rich and full of so many lessons. I don't just want to rush it and then cut it off. So I want to begin to wrap up now, but I want to say for what we have heard already. Joba says, wow, God was preparing you for this day. Let me look at some of the comments that were coming through. Okay. Pauline, hey Pauline Michael. Pauline says, this is good. Awesome couple. Nayoka says, that's it, sir. A different outlook and balance. And I believe your story just basically has people mesmerized. And again, Joba says, God was preparing you for this day. But I don't want to rob you because I believe that this story is worth telling so that people would really understand how you were able to deal with, embrace adversity, and come through it. And I want to talk more in detail because I don't want to pass over anything about what you were feeling in that moment. How and the questions, which are fair game as far as I'm concerned, ask God. Because you want to understand why is this happening. And God made us to ask questions, so I'm not one of those who say you don't question God. That's the only one where you could get answers from, because he's the only wise God. So I really want to invite you all to come back next week. Are you available? Shake your heads if you are. Okay, good. I want to continue the story. I'll have to change the person that I had booked later on, but I want to pick up the story about now the whole process of your child being ill. You're young, you're still, 20 something at the time, and you're dealing with this whole process of catering to an ill child and then dealing with his loss and day to day and those feelings at times when you felt like it was only you and it, Coolie and Mike, what you were feeling on the other hand as a man, trying to hold things down, keep it together, but she's still coming at you like, but I need you here. So I really want to explore all of those emotions, those raw emotions, so that people could understand how real it was, what you had to do, how God got you out, and then we'll pick up the story and bring it right up to where you are today with raising two beautiful children and all the wonderful things that God is doing in your life. And so I want to end. Lovely K says, I pray for your family. Joba says, yes, please come back. We have to see the outcome. Hey, Grace. Grace says, powerful testimony, all for the glory of God. Charmaine says, awesome family, blessings to my ministers, love you both. This is Charmaine, truly blessed. McIntosh, she says, blessings to my ministers, love you both. This is good stuff. So yeah, I want to bring you back. Let's continue with this story because I believe that you're truly going to be a blessing. And then we're going to have more people because it won't be Super Bowl Sunday. It won't be Super Bowl and they'll be watching. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you opening up yourselves and your lives to us at this time. Monique Pratt says, God bless you both. It's good to hear your story, Mike. This is Monique Pratt Wallace. It's good to see you on this great show. Praying for you all. So, yeah, let's pick this up next week and continue to walk through how you guys process what you've had to deal with, what you've learned through the process, where you are now, and just how you could continue to encourage and push. Okay. Pauline, come back. Hey, Pauline, come back. Say, you guys, that's my Paulie. That's why I call her Paulie. You guys are an example. Love you much, my friends. That's my Paulie on. So anyway, I love you too, and I thank you once again for sharing. Because I was about to cry, so that's a good time to close this out right now. But I'll see you again next week. Those of you who are on, invite somebody else to come on, tag them, let them know. Mike and Coolie Wilson, they're going to be back sharing their story. It's a meaningful story of, I call it, love, relationship, and commitment. Commitment to themselves, commitment to God, ultimately, and to their families. So, thanks for swerving with me tonight, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.